And, the guy probably had a few months to really, get his P's and Q's and, really establish how he's going to get the hell out of there immediately after taking a shot. Because he only took one shot. So, and then they couldn't find him. And we saw that mysterious figure on the roof that got away quickly. So definitely some rehearsal or some type of practice was done beforehand and preparation.
Yeah, I still have question marks on why there's no camera footage of him. That's my big question mark in the situation. But yeah, I mean, look, I think me and you on the same page on that. It's just that's my question mark on that, and I've already detailed why I don't think what my question marks about the Mossad argument. I think the strongest argument I mentioned here, Myron, I don't know if you're here, for the Mossad is if they end up using this to invade Iran, then maybe that would be a strong argument for why Mossad was involved.
I think the only thing that makes sense. Sorry, Myron, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think the only thing that makes sense to me is that he was killed and targeted because he's an Israeli, he's pro-Israeli, pro-Zionist, and therefore they can create the narrative that, oh, these Zionist believers and these pro-Zionists are being targeted, and then it creates fear. That's the only line of thinking that makes sense to me if you're going to think it's a conspiracy.
Hey, Myron, I have a quick question for you because I know you've spent time with folks like Charlie Kirk, and the question that I have is if this is just a lone gun person who really has animus towards Charlie Kirk, I would assume that there's far easier ways to go about trying to put yourself in a position where you could be around a person like this. And I was going to make the comparison, the shooter for Donald Trump, for example, he's got Secret Service around him all the time. He's always going to be protected, and they're always taking kind of assumptions that they need to set up a perimeter around somebody like him. With Charlie Kirk, and I'd be curious for your views. Again, you spend a lot of time with people like this. I would assume that's not the case, right? So for somebody to do it in such a public fashion, I was making the claim earlier. It seems like it has to be designed for terrorism and to scare people and terrify them through the gore that they witnessed, rather than merely a vendetta against this one person. But maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it's way harder to get around somebody like him.
I agree with you 1,000%. That is actually like damn near precisely my assessment. My assessment is, because I've done a couple of these like debate things before. Typically, you're there for hours, right? Setting up, right? Staff is there setting up, making all the audio, making sure the audio is good. It takes a couple hours to set up. Charlie probably walked by doing mic checks and stuff like that. So there were plenty of opportunities for this shooter to shoot him before everybody was there. But the shooter waited until there was a large amount of people there, crowded as hell. Who knows if he was listening into what they were talking about even, decided to pull the trigger as they were talking about mass shootings, right? To, try to, garner some type of even more attention. But the shooter absolutely chose that time and that moment to shoot him with all those people there for a desired effect. So, no, man, I would agree with you that this was 1,000% to send a message because, me just, just speaking from my experience, because I do the same exact thing where I'm setting up on campus. You're there before you turn the cameras on and go live, like you're there doing sound checks and shit like that. So this shooter had plenty of chances to shoot him with almost no one there, but they waited until there were people there to get that mass effect. Which I think speaks volumes to the killer's intent and their mindset, where they wanted to make this a spectacle. They wanted to make sure cameras were out, everyone saw it. They wanted to create pandemonium. And this is why I think that this is terrorism. I think this goes far beyond a regular murder, one premeditated. This is fucking terrorism, man.
So I have a question. If it is going to be,
what you just described sounds very Israeli.
If it is going to be that this was a Mossad operation, do you think it's more beneficial that the killer will be somebody who's like a staunch Zionist, like an Ashkenazi Jew? Will it be more beneficial that it was like they're going to say it's a Muslim Arab that did it? Because I think it's the latter.
I don't know, man. We'll see. I mean, right now at this point, I'm speculating, of course, unless other evidence comes out. I'm speculating that it's going to be a radical liberal. I just don't see Mossad doing this at this point because Charlie is such a, big defender of Israel. He's super pro-Israel. So I think that would be counterproductive to them to, kill one of the biggest right-wing political commentators that, advocates for them. I think it's more than likely some Looney Tunes left-wing person. But, like I said before, I'm keeping my ears open, my mind open to other alternatives. But just off the evidence that I see right now, I think this was someone that wanted to send a message that is extremely politically motivated.
Do you think that there's any way this could have not been state sponsored? Seems very highly coordinated, insane levels of access and planning and marksmanship.
Well,
Could this be?
college
Could this
campuses,
in what
guys, you got to
in what way
understand
could
that
this
college
be a
campuses are not.
yeah?
College campuses are basically open. Like it's basically anyone can walk on a college campus and get fairly easy access to all the buildings. You know, when I was at Northeastern University, for example, right, which is in the middle of Boston, you can walk around campus and get into buildings very easily without being a student. So, you know, I would not put it past anybody to be able to, you know, go there in their free time, scout out the stuff, you know, check out the roofs, look at where things are going to happen. And then keep in mind, when Charlie finished his tour last time, right, when he wrapped up this tour, he had already put out a list of all the schools he was going to go to. So that would give any, you know, potential murderer or guy trying to plan the assassination plenty of time to do recon and figure out, you know, strategic points of escape, strategic points of setting up, shooting the rifle, how you would shoot it, how you quickly disassemble, and how you'd be able to get out the situation. So the shooter had months to plan this.
So would you say that the shooter was some sort of trained professional, being that he was able to pull off a shot like that and get away without being
It could
undetected?
be. It could be. You know, I think shooting, you know, anyone can go to the range and practice with a rifle and become pretty fucking proficient quickly. Rifles are easy to shoot compared to handguns.
And do you
Yeah,
think
but
that, like,
but this is like a snipe though. Like you hit him in the part of the neck that he, you know, that would kill him from quite a distance. This isn't just like a normal rifle shot.
No, of course, but like I said, you can, dude, you'd be amazed at how going to the range consistently over a few weeks will make you fucking really good. Like going to the range and practicing, you can get proficient pretty quickly, especially if you got a good coach. Oh man, you know.
but
It,
what I'm
go
saying
ahead.
is the combination of pulling off a great shot. I don't think it's a great shot because the guy died, but the combination of pulling off an accurate shot and planning and getting away undetected by the FBI and what some would say is a CIA asset or a Mossad asset, the combination of all those things, pulling off all those things, would
I
have
mean,
to
like I
make you
said, you
an
know,
above average person.
anything is possible, man. You know, I'm not saying that it's not a professional, whatever. All I'm simply saying is that there was plenty of lead time up to this event. And I do think that a normie could have probably put themselves in a position to pull this off if they did their homework. But we'll have to see what what happens. I think if when they do hopefully catch this guy, that's going to answer a lot of questions. And I'm definitely pretty certain that when they do catch this guy, they're going to look at him as like a Luigi Mangione type, probably.
I got a question for you, Myron, if you don't mind. Do you think there's any chance that the powers that be, maybe somebody higher up, will try to twist this into saying that this is some sort of groiper, coming out and trying to say it?
Nah, bro. Hell no.
But I'm not saying it was. I'm saying, do you think that there's any shot that somebody, maybe intelligence has a hand on this and they'll try to paint it like that? Because Nick's got so much momentum right now. And you have to wonder if there's CIA or Mossad involved, if they're going to try to use this.
Nick has always been anti-violent, man. He's always been,
Yeah,
he's always
that's
condemned
what I'm-
violence and shit.
So you don't understand what I'm saying is, do you think there's any chance that intelligence will use this as an opportunity to try to twist it?
He's basically
wrong
saying
way?
that it's a like. Do you think there's a possibility? Obviously I don't agree with this position, but that was a false flag. So what happens is a false flag. Someone kills Kirk, but then
Yeah.
pretends it was a groiper.
Nick
Yeah, I
would
mean-
never. Yeah, obviously not a real groiper. I'm saying, will the shooter be killed, and then they'll try to paint the picture like, oh, this guy was a fan of Nick Fuentes, even though
I don't
obviously
think so, bro.
intelligence.
I don't
Do you
think so.
understand?
I don't think so, man. I think you guys are like giving this way too much sophistication. If I'm going to be very honest with you guys, I think intelligence agencies have way better things to worry about, especially with all the conflicts going on around the world, than assassinating a political commentator that's pro-Trump while Trump is in
Well, I'm not
office.
even
I
saying
don't
that.
think.
I'm not saying that they actually coordinated the attack. It could just be an outlier, crazy person. But then if he ends up dead, they can take this narrative and spin it any way they want. Do you think that that's
Yeah,
a possibility?
Look, man, like, human nature tends to want to go with the more entertaining scenario, right? They kind of want to, oh, it's a conspiracy, intelligence agencies, whatever. Guys, this could be as simple as a fucking guy that was on TikTok one day, saw Charlie Kirk clips because he's huge on TikTok, got pissed off, got frustrated, went to the store, bought an AR-15, went to the range, saw Charlie's schedule and said, you know what, I'm going to fucking take matters into my own hands and be a renegade shooter on his own. It could be that simple, guys. Or it could be the other angle of what you guys said. But, my saying is typically this: what is simpler to accomplish and what seems more plausible? Is it plausible that intelligence agencies are going to target someone like Charlie Kirk, who is a friend of the current administration, or Israeli intelligence, when he's been a friend of the Israeli government and advocated for them? I think that would be less likely than a liberal being crazy and saying, oh, I want to get rid of this guy because he has too much influence and I'm pissed off, right? So again, I'm open to all theories and everything else like that, but a lot of the times the simplest explanation is the explanation.